The rain poured down in sheets, casting a silver haze over Riverbend. I stood on the corner of Main Street, my heart pounding like a drum against the din of the storm. The town seemed to hold its breath, the usually bustling shops now shuttered, their window displays turned into distorted reflections of the world outside, warped by the rain. I pulled my coat tighter around me, not just to shield against the cold, but to calm the storm brewing inside me. Today was the day. It hit me like a surge of electricity as I watched the flicker of soft lights through the rain-coated glass windows of the cafe. In there, tucked away in a booth, was the embodiment of betrayal, the person who had taken everything from me. A ghost I thought I had buried deep in my past. Anger surged through me, hot as lava, as I wiped the rain from my face, the taste of bitterness mixing with the cold air. I could barely breathe. As I took a step closer to the cafe, my boots splashing in the puddles, the familiar smell of brewed coffee wafted through the door as someone entered, momentarily illuminating the interior. Laughter bubbled up from within, sweet and inviting, wrapping around me even as it filled me with rage. I hesitated on the threshold, reminding myself why I had come. This was not just about me. It was about justice. The bell above the door tinkled as I entered, and the warmth enveloped me. My eyes quickly searched for that smirking face until it landed on a figure seated in the back booth. There they were, a knot of friends surrounding them, their voices animated, the joy palpable. It was so painful to watch, a reminder of their carefully crafted life while mine lay in ruins. I hesitated for just a moment longer, feeling my heart squeeze painfully. Then, I steeled myself. I had played this moment over in my head 1,000 times, every word rehearsed like a script ingrained in my mind. I strode toward the booth, each step firm, confident, as if I controlled the storm brewing around me. As I approached, the chatter began to quiet. Recognition sparked in their eyes, disbelief morphing into something darker. "What do you want?" The question dripped with disdain, punctuated by the sarcastic twist of their lips. "I want to talk," I stated, my voice steady even as tremors danced through me. "Might want to learn how to knock first," one of the friends snipped, laughter sparking near to the surface. "Actually, I think it's time for a little truth," I said, letting the sharpness of my tone fill the air, almost tasting the tension that hung like a storm cloud. They hesitated, an awkward silence that stretched between us, each of them unsure whether to dismiss me or to indulge my sudden appearance. "I don't think now is the best time," another friend began, but I cut in before they could finish. "No, it is definitely the best time," I pressed, my heart racing as I leaned on the edge of the table, locking eyes with the one who had wronged me. "I've let this go for too long, and I can't be quiet anymore." "What are you going on about? This isn't the time for whatever freak show you think this is," they replied, their bravado faltering as they looked at the friends surrounding them for support, an unspoken plea for reinforcement. "You ruined my life," I said, my voice trembling with barely contained emotion, "and I'm here to confront you about it. You can't hide from the truth by pretending I'm just a voice from the past." They shifted in their seat, swallowing hard, probably wishing they could disappear. "You've got it all wrong. That was years ago, Harper. Move on." The use of my name felt like a slap across my face. I felt anger ferment, bubbling and frothing like a pot on the verge of boiling over. "You think this is about moving on? This is about accountability. This is about finally being honest. What you did. Harper, come on, you are making a scene." One of the friends cut in, concern etched into their face. "No, this is important. I am not leaving this cafe until we talk about what you did." I put my hands on the table and leaned in closer, the tension crackling like static electricity. "You know damn well what I'm talking about." Their face paled, the bravado cracked as they glanced nervously at their friends. The laughter that had filled the booth was now a distant memory, replaced by a heavy silence that pressed down on us. "This is ridiculous," they attempted to deflect, but I pressed on. "Ridiculous? Is it ridiculous that you pretended to be my friend while you stabbed me in the back, while you plotted against me, made sure I lost everything that mattered just so you could play the Good Samaritan?" I could feel heat rising to my cheeks, hurt and betrayal bubbling to the surface for the first time since that betrayal came crashing down on my life. "This is not how things work in the real world." They spat back with thinly veiled contempt. "No, no," I said, my voice lowering, the intensity now spilling from my lips like molten steel. "This is how things should work. You think you can just keep shoving me down and pretending it does not matter. I will not let you erase my voice any longer." The friend they had been leaning on began to shift uncomfortably as I locked eyes with the imposter. "Let me remind you what you think you've buried. I am here, and I will not be silenced." I straightened, feeling liberated as I declared those words, a sensation that buzzed through me, almost intoxicating, giving me the courage to confront the truth larger than both of us. They attempted to laugh dismissively, but it fell flat. The realization settled in their expression. The facade began to crack, and I could see uncertainty flicker in their eyes, because deep down, they knew I was right. The rain continued to pound the cafe windows, and outside, the world moved on. But there, in that moment, our past surged forth like the storm we could no longer avoid. I stood on the edge of the old bridge, staring down into the murky waters of the river below. The way the sunlight spilled over the surface made it shimmer like 1,000 tiny stars captured in a glistening whirlpool. I could almost forget the ache in my heart and the dread nestled in my stomach. But then I thought of what had happened just a few days before, and a shiver ran down my spine. I recalled the laughter that echoed in my ears, the betrayal burning hot against my skin, and the gnawing determination that grew deep within me. They had pushed me too far, and now I was ready to take back what was mine. You know, I whispered to myself, they say revenge is a dish best served cold, but I prefer it steaming hot and right in their faces. The words tasted bitter as they left my mouth, but I let them linger. Just then, I heard footsteps crunching on the gravel behind me. I turned my head slightly, a wary feeling prickling at the back of my neck. I wanted to see who was approaching without drawing attention to myself. It's her, the woman who had stolen everything. My heart raced. "What are you doing here?" I heard her voice call out, a nervous edge creeping into her tone as she neared. I kept my face expressionless, focusing on the water below. "Just enjoying the view," I replied casually, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions churning inside me. "You look like you're lost in thought," she said, a small laugh escaping her lips, the sound devoid of genuine warmth. I felt my fists clench ever so slightly. The audacity of her to casually interrupt my moment of contemplation. She acted as if nothing had happened, as if the wreckage she left in my life were just ripples on the water's surface. "It's a beautiful day for just that," I said, fighting to keep my voice even. I let the breeze catch my hair, feeling it whip around my face, giving me a moment of strength. "You should try it sometime." "Well, I came to find you," she said, and I noted how the tension in her voice dampened the allure of her words. "You have to stop acting weird. We need to move on, you know?" My lips pressed into a thin line as I fought the urge to scoff. Move on? Is that what she thought I could do? Move on? You mean after you took everything from me? Just pretend like it didn't happen, like I didn't just watch my world collapse. I could hear the sharpness in my voice, how it sliced through the air between us. She raised her hands defensively, eyes wide, as though she hadn't expected my tone to shift so quickly. "I thought we were past that. I thought you'd at least be happy for me." "Happy for you? Do you even hear yourself?" I stepped a little closer, the distance between us collapsing like the foundation of the life I once knew. "You took my life, my place, my dreams, and you think I should be clapping for you? This isn't over." "What do you mean?" The uncertainty in her voice made me feel a flicker of satisfaction. "I mean, just because you think it's over for you doesn't mean it's over for me." I could see her face shift, confusion morphing into the slightest hint of concern. "You're not making any sense." "Am I not?" I let a sly smile slip free, one that felt foreign yet exhilarating. "You see, I have this little plan brewing in my head. It's going to be exquisite, a perfect revenge for all you've done. You won't even see it coming." The air around us thickened, a charged silence hanging between us as horrors danced behind her eyes. "You're scaring me a little," she murmured, stepping back instinctively, the bravado in her stance faltering. "You don't need to be scared," I said softly, the sweetness in my tone mocking her fear. That was the thrill of it all. The power derived from watching her lose her footing ungripped me, made me bold. "All you need to do is remember what you took from me. Keep it in mind when I come around next. Harper, we are friends, we were friends." I could hear the desperation creeping back into her voice, a pleading note that ignited something darkly satisfying within me. "Friends?" That felt like a joke whispered in the night. "You were never my friend, you were a thief, and I am done being the victim." I stepped even closer, leaning in just enough to gauge her reaction, relishing the way her breath caught. "Remember the way it felt when you crumbled my world? The shock, the disbelief? That is just the beginning for you. This isn't fair." She exclaimed, her voice rising, panic spilling into her words. "You don't know what I have been through. Please save your excuses. I don't want to hear them. No more of your pathetic attempts to gaslight me." I turned away, taking a few steps towards the railing, trying to ease the raging emotions within me. The calming rush of the river swelled beneath me, almost soothing. "You think you can fix this? Just sweep it under the rug, and we'll all pretend like none of it ever happened." "I will be damned if I let you walk away." I could feel her eyes boring into my back as if she was trying to read me, to understand what I had become. "You're playing a dangerous game," she whispered, her voice trembling. I turned back to face her, my expression a mix of fierce determination and barely constrained exhilaration. "Oh, believe me, I'm just warming up." That was how I felt, ignited by a fire I had never known existed. I walked away, the sounds of my footsteps echoing against the weathered stones, the coolness of the breeze wrapping around me like a cloak of revenge. Little did she know, the real game was just beginning, and I was ready to play. The fluorescent lights in the cafe flickered intermittently, casting an almost ghostly glow across the cramped space. My heart thudded in rhythmic anticipation as I took my seat at a table close to the entrance, choosing a spot where I could observe everyone without being easily seen. The smell of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the aroma of pastries, but it did nothing to quell my nerves. Today was the day. The day I finally confronted those who had worn masks of friendship while quietly plotting my downfall. I tugged at my sleeves, the fabric soft yet constricting, as if it could restrain the emotion boiling inside me. My fingers tapped an anxious pattern on the faux wood table, each tap echoing the rhythm of my racing thoughts. I had been preparing for this moment for weeks, rehearsing the words I would say, perfecting my delivery like an actor in a long-awaited scene. I imagined their expressions when they saw me, the glimmers of recognition followed by disbelief as they realized what they'd done to me. And then, like an unwelcome shudder running down my spine, I saw them walk in. They strolled through the door, the bell jingle barely registering over the rush of blood in my ears. They were all smiles, oblivious to the storm they had stirred. Sitting opposite the cafe was my former group of so-called friends, laughing, joking, as though my world hadn't crashed around me because of them. I pressed my lips together, fighting the urge to scream their names in a rush of fury. I watched them for what felt like an eternity, their laughter rising like the steam from their mugs. Nestled in the corner, Booth was the one who set the whole thing in motion, her vibrant blue dress a stark contrast to my muted gray ensemble. I pushed back my chair, the sound scraping against the tiled floor like nails on a chalkboard, and that caught their attention. One of them looked over, and her smile faltered as realization dawned. She whispered something to the others, and they turned their heads in unison, their expressions shifting from amusement to confusion. I approached their table, my footsteps confidently louder than I had intended. "Oh, well, if it isn't the dream team," I said, attempting to inject humor into my tone, though the bitterness leaked through. Their laughter faded into a tense silence, and I reveled in the sudden shift of power. I could see the nervous glances, the biting of lips, perhaps even the regret that flickered in their eyes but was quickly hidden behind forced smiles. "Harper, what a surprise," the blue dress girl said, her voice syrupy sweet but edged with something feigned. "We didn't expect to see you here." "No," I replied, leaning against the booth's edge, crossing my arms in front of me. "I thought this was a hangout for friends." The word friends dripped from my mouth like rancid honey, and I could see her wince. A tall guy with a mop of curly hair cleared his throat, the sound shattering the tension like glass. "We were just talking about how you've been missing from the group lately. Hope everything's okay?" His concern felt like a mockery, a thin veil cloaking the knowledge of their deceit. I narrowed my eyes, holding his stare long enough for a flicker of discomfort to play across his face. "Oh, everything is perfectly fine. In fact, I've been working on some plans. You know how some people thrive on betrayal?" I paused, letting my words settle like a stone in their stomachs. I thought it was time I turned the tables. The whispers erupted like a sudden thunderstorm. "What do you mean?" one of them asked, incredulity lacing her voice. I leaned closer, making sure they could sense the proximity of my words. "You thought I was just going to fade away, didn't you? That I would simply walk away after everything you did?" My voice dropped low, laced with a fury they couldn't ignore. "You stole my trust. You twisted the very essence of what we had, and for what? To elevate yourselves." The blue dress girl squirmed in her seat, her facade faltering as the words cut through the air. "Harper, you don't understand." "Oh, but I do," I interrupted sharply, my heart racing as exhilaration coursed through me. "I understand perfectly. You manufactured lies, turned the community against me, and watched with glee as I crumbled." Silence enveloped us like a curtain, heavy and oppressive. I could see the others shifting, exchanging glances filled with uncertainty. "We never meant for it to go that far," someone finally spoke, but the apology rang hollow against the truth of their actions. "You never meant for it to go that far? Oh, how convenient," I snapped back, feeling the adrenaline surge in my veins. "What about when you laughed at my downfall? What about the false support you gave while throwing daggers behind my back?" The guy with curly hair tried to defend himself. People say things in the moment. Harper, we were just caught up in the drama. Caught up in the drama? You just admitted you were part of it, I pressed, sensing the walls closing in on them. My breath caught in my throat, laced with triumph as I laid bare the raw wounds of betrayal. You don't get to sweep it under the rug like it never happened. The blue dress girl seemed to regain her strength, anger flashing across her face. You're being unreasonable. We were just trying to protect ourselves. Protect yourselves? I echoed, my voice rising. By destroying me? By reveling in my pain? I came here to remind you that your actions have consequences. You didn't just break trust, you shattered lives. I looked around, catching the eyes of each of them, one by one, letting the weight of my words linger in the air. I leaned in closer, my voice dropping to an urgent whisper. I hope you remember this moment. I hope you remember the way it feels to have the rug pulled from under you, because that's how I felt. The fear of losing everything, only to find that everything you believed was a lie. With that, I straightened, my heart pounding in my chest. I won't disappear this time, I stated firmly, allowing a small, satisfied smile to cross my lips as I turned on my heel. As I walked away, the lingering tension still crackled in the air behind me, and I could feel their gazes burning into my back. For the first time in months, I could taste victory on my tongue in the damp silence of the old warehouse. The air hung thick with nostalgia and decay, a bittersweet combination that wrapped around me like a shroud. I could feel the chill seeping through the cracked walls as I stepped deeper inside, the distant echoes of my past whispering as I walked. I hadn't set foot in this place since everything fell apart, turning my life into a twisted parody of what it had once been. The scent of rust and dust filled my nostrils, sending shivers down my spine as memories of laughter and light drowned in betrayal flooded back. With each cautious step, I could hear the crunch of broken glass under my boots, each crunch punctuating the muffled beat of my heart, a steady reminder of what I was here to confront. I had been planning this moment for months, meticulously building the courage and the groundwork for what lay ahead. And now, standing in this forgotten skeleton of a building, it felt like the climax of an excruciatingly long nightmare about to unfold. I stood still, letting the moment wash over me, the memories clashing with my resolve. Are you ready for this? I whispered to myself, my voice barely audible in the desolate expanse. The only response came from the eerie silence, a heavy weight suffocating the air, urging me forward. I took a deep breath, smelling the old wood and the faint, lingering scent of oil. I was here on a mission of reckoning, a final confrontation. This time, it would not end in tears or turmoil. The thought enveloped me in a wave of determination, igniting a fire deep within. As I approached the far end of the warehouse, faint sounds began to filter through the walls, muffled laughter followed by the clinking of glasses. I reached the door that separated me from them. I could hear their voices clearly now, ricocheting off the walls. You should have seen him, totally clueless. A male voice shouted, a laugh bursting forth like shards of glass. How did he ever let you talk him into that? I told him it was necessary. I mean, come on, he was getting in the way of everyone's fun. Another voice chimed in, a melodious laugh, almost musical in the otherwise rusty surroundings. Anger ignited within me, singular and focused. It was time to put my plan into action. I steadied my shaking hands, each fingertip grazing the cold metal of the door handle, grounding me in the moment. Just go in, I said under my breath, the words flowing out as a mantra against the groaning of uncertainty swirling in my mind. You have prepared for this. This is your time. I swung the door open, its heavy creak sounding like a groan of protest as I stepped into a room suffused with pale light. I took in the sight that unfolded before me, laughter and camaraderie, punctuated by the clinking of bottles and the hum of careless banter. My heart raced, and for a moment I stood there, a ghost, taking in the scene. There they were, all my former friends, nestled comfortably at a makeshift bar adorned with cheap vodka and half-filled glasses. The sharp sunlight streamed through the broken windows, illuminating their faces. Faces I had once cherished, now distorted by betrayal and the harshness of their actions. A jolt of confidence surged through me. Surprise! I shouted, my voice breaking through their jovial atmosphere like thunder. The laughter died down, replaced by surprised expressions. Their faces morphed from amusement to confusion, finally settling on recognition. One particularly startled expression came from a woman I could never forget. Harper, what are you doing here? She stammered, her tone a mix of shock and unease. You know, just thought I'd drop by and relive some old memories, I replied, my voice mocking, laced with a sweet venom that curled the corners of my mouth into a smirk. The laughter had ceased, replaced by a heavy silence that was thick with tension. I could feel the weight of their gazes upon me, scrutinizing, evaluating. In that moment, I could almost taste the fear mingling with the stale air. Is this some kind of joke? Another voice piped up, leaning forward, suspicion lighting up his features. Oh, no joke at all. I just wanted to remind you all that I am still here, I replied, my words dripping with sarcasm. You thought you could forget me, didn't you? Their expressions ranged from guilt to indignation, a bouquet of conflicting emotions that fueled my resolve. I could see the unease settling in, tiny flickers of discomfort darting across their faces like trapped butterflies seeking an escape route. Listen, Harper, we didn't mean to, the first woman tried to interject, but I wasn't about to give them the opportunity to weave excuses. Save it? I cut her off, raising my hand as if to disarm her. My voice sharpened. You didn't mean to hurt me. You didn't mean to cut me out like I meant nothing? Spare me the theatrics. I was the punchline of your little jokes, the collateral damage of your perfect little lives. But here I am, standing right in front of you. This time, I am not the one who will be ignored. As I spoke, I could see their walls start to crumble, the bravado draining from their faces. A small victory, perhaps, but a victory nonetheless. Harper, another familiar face, finally spoke up, his voice wavering, the calm facade of confidence fading as he shifted uncomfortably in his seat. We didn't know how to handle things back then. Things just spiraled out of control. Spiraled out of control? I echoed, disbelief dripping from my words. You were the ones who made the decision to push me aside. I was a ghost in my own life, and now, after everything, what? You want to act as if that wasn't a choice? It's ironic, isn't it? The once beloved friend turned into a specter, now craving the light of day. The silence lingered, thick like fog, as I reveled in their discomfort. I understood that my presence was a reckoning that taught them a lesson. My heart beat steadily, no longer frayed by uncertainty. Why are you doing this? The woman asked, a genuine plea hiding behind her defensive tone. That's the beauty of it, I quipped, my lips curving into a subtle smile. I'm here to remind you of the consequences of your actions and to reclaim my place. I may have been weak before, but today I am stronger than ever. The darkness around the room closed in tighter as I stepped closer to the makeshift bar, their eyes wide and apprehensive. Something within me began to awaken, years of anger and hurt crystallizing into an armor I wore with newfound confidence. I was no longer a victim, but the driving force behind my own narrative. I am going to take back what is rightfully mine, I declared, letting my words hang in the air like a promise. And with that, I knew I was not just here for confrontation. I was here for redemption. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows across the autumn landscape. Riverbend, with its crisp, cool air and the scent of damp leaves, felt alive yet eerily quiet. I stood at the edge of the old park, my heart beating against the cage of my ribs like a trapped bird ready to flee. The plan I had meticulously crafted over the last few months was finally about to unfold, and all the fear and doubt that had nestled in my mind began to squirm again. I knew what I would do, I just didn't know if I could follow through. As I took a slow, deep breath, the metallic tang of adrenaline filled my mouth, and I could almost taste the reckoning that awaited me. I spotted the figure I was waiting for, no longer a friend once they chose betrayal over loyalty. The leaves crunched beneath my feet as I moved forward, my gaze locked on them. You were supposed to come tonight, I called out, my voice steady, though a storm brewed within me. They turned, a mix of surprise and confusion painting their features. Harper, I didn't expect to see you here. Their words were laced with a hint of guilt, and my skin prickled at the thought of the secrets they had kept. I figured you wouldn't, I replied, my tone sharper than I intended. After all, you always had a knack for avoiding the consequences, but tonight is different. I'm not letting you slip away this time. A flicker of recognition passed through their eyes as they stepped back, their body language shifting, becoming more defensive. What do you mean? You can't just what? I interrupted, feeling a fire ignite in my gut. Can't just confront you about how you betrayed me, about how you thought you could play God with my life and walk away unscathed. The air grew thick with tension. I could feel every heartbeat, every breath sharp and deliberate. Their face contorted as they tried to find the right words. Harper, I did what I thought was best at the time. You have to understand that No, I don't have to understand anything, I shot back, stepping closer. I could see the color draining from their face, terror slowly seeping in as they realized the gravity of my resolve. You made your choice, and now I get to make mine. What are you talking about? They stammered, incredulity spilling out of their mouth like water from a spilled cup. Do you really think I'd let you off that easily? Do you have any idea what you put me through? The sleepless nights, the endless doubt about myself, you were supposed to be my friend. My hands balled into fists at my sides, and I could feel my nails digging into my palms, a reminder of the pain they had inflicted. When they opened their mouth again, I had expected an apology, an ounce of remorse. Instead, I was met with defiance. You know I was looking out for you. This isn't about guilt. This is about your inability to see the bigger picture. Looking out for me? I laughed, a sound that rang hollow. You were looking out for yourself while I lay broken on the floor. The bigger picture, the only picture I see is of a coward hiding behind lies, their eyes narrowed, and I knew I had struck a nerve. You don't know what you're talking about. I did what I had to do to keep everything intact, to keep you from sinking. What's wrong is that you thought you could control my destiny. You took matters into your own hands without even considering what I wanted. This was my life. I paused, the weight of every emotion crashing into me like waves against a rocky shore. You wanted to save me, but you ended up drowning me. The silence hung heavy between us, the air crackling with unspoken accusations. My heart pounded like a drum, and I could hear the hesitant rustle of leaves overhead, as if nature itself was pausing to witness this confrontation. What do you want from me? They finally asked, their voice softer, almost pleading. Simple, I said, taking another step forward, my body humming with the exhilaration of empowerment. I want you to feel what it's like to have everything you care about ripped away. I want you to understand the darkness you plunged me into. I want you to suffer as I suffered. Their expression shifted from anger to panic. You're serious, you can't be serious. I am very serious, I retorted, taking a moment to relish the fear flashing in their eyes. You've had your fun playing puppet master, but this is my act now. You'll learn boundaries and you'll learn them in a way that leaves a mark. They opened their mouth to respond, but the words caught in their throat as the reality of our situation sank in. Harper, you don't have to do this. We can work things out. We can find a way to work things out, I scoffed, cutting them off. You think after everything that's happened, I would just sweep this under the rug? No one gets to hurt me and just walk away. Not like this. Not after everything. Desperation turned their features pale. Please, we can talk this through. Just tell me what you want. I want you to admit what you did. I want you to look me in the eye and say it, I demanded, my voice steady as I locked my gaze with theirs. Say it out loud. They hesitated, the fight draining from them as the truth weighed on their tongue. I manipulated you. I thought I was protecting you, but I see now that you were protecting yourself instead, I finished coldly, feeling the corners of my mouth curl into a bitter smile. You thought you could play the hero while I crumbled beneath your decisions. You don't get to rewrite this narrative. I do. The realization of what I had set into motion washed over me like a wave, and in that moment, I felt powerful, alive. As I watched their expression shift from shock to acceptance, a sense of triumph coursed through me. I had taken back my strength, and with it came the promise of freedom. The sun broke through the gathering clouds, illuminating the dark path I had walked, showing me that even in revenge, there was a way to rise from the ashes stronger than ever before. The chill in the air cut through me as I stepped out of my car, the dim streetlights casting flickering shadows across the pavement. I pulled my coat tighter around me. The fabric felt rough against my skin, a reminder of the walls I had built up over the years. Tonight was the night everything would change. I looked up at the old brick building, its once vibrant color now dull and lifeless, much like the emotions I had kept hidden for so long. I could feel my heart thumping in my chest, each beat a countdown to the confrontation I had been preparing for. The plan had been meticulously crafted, and with each step toward the entrance, the weight of what I was about to do settled deeper in my stomach. As the heavy door creaked open, the warm air of the interior wrapped around me like a shroud, but I could still feel the tension crawling beneath my skin. The bar was almost empty, the only patrons sitting in the far corner, shadows leaning together in hushed conversation. My gaze fell on the figure I was here for, sitting at the bar, a glass of amber liquid glinting in front of him. He hadn't changed much. The same confident smirk, the same careless aura, like nothing in the world could touch him. I fought the urge to turn and leave, but the thought of what he had done to me tightened my fists. Just breathe, I told myself, steeling my resolve. I approached him, my footsteps even and deliberate on the wooden floor. He looked up, those familiar eyes flashing with surprise before settling into that infuriating, disarming grin. Harper, long time no see, he said, his voice dripping with an irritating charm that made my skin crawl. Too long, I replied, my voice cooler than I felt. I thought you might want to have a chat. Sure, always up for a chat with an old friend, he said, gesturing to the empty bar stool beside him. Join me, I hesitated, then took a seat. The scent of whiskey and stale beer hung heavily in the air, mixing with the wood polish of the bar counter. This isn't about friendship, I said bluntly, meeting his gaze head-on. This is about what you did. His expression shifted subtly, the grin faltering for only a moment before he regained his composure. I did. You are going to have to remind me. It has been years. We all make mistakes. Isn't that what life is? A series of errors? I clenched my jaw, hatred bubbling just beneath the surface. You know very well what you did. You ruined my life. You took everything from me. Oh, come on, Harper. Don't be so dramatic, he said with an eye roll, the dismissive gesture pushing me closer to my breaking point. It was just a little misunderstanding, blown way out of proportion. Misunderstanding. I shot back, my voice rising sharper than I intended. You don't get to call it a misunderstanding when you walked away like it meant nothing. You didn't even try to see the damage you caused. A flicker of emotion crossed his face, something between annoyance and amusement, and I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins. This is kind of funny, you know? All these years later and you're still hung up on that. You need to move on, Harper. Move on. I echoed, feeling the heat of anger creeping into my cheeks. You think that's what this is about, just moving on? You think I'll let you off the hook that easily? He leaned back, a mocking smile playing on his lips. What are you going to do? Throw a drink in my face? Make a scene? That would be so cliché. I took a deep breath, fighting back the surge of emotions threatening to overwhelm me. No, I have something much better in mind. You see, I've spent too long planning this, and I'm not backing down now. His eyebrows raised in mock surprise, and a chuckle escaped his lips. Planning? This is spiraling into a horror movie or something. Maybe, I said, my own lips curling into a sly smile, but I guarantee you will regret underestimating me tonight. Then I pulled out the envelope I had kept hidden in my coat pocket, the very heart of my plan and the key to exposing everything he had tried to bury. You remember this, don't you? My voice dripped with anticipation as I slid it across the bar toward him. He glanced at it, confusion flashing in his eyes before he remained composed. What's this? A love letter? More like an exposé, I retorted, unable to hide the satisfaction creeping into my words, relishing the tension thickening the air between us. He picked up the envelope, opening it slowly as if it were a fragile artifact. The moment his eyes scanned the contents, the amusement faded, and for the first time, uncertainty flickered in his gaze. You can't. Oh, but I can, I assured him, smiling wider as I watched his facade crack. I've gathered all the evidence. Witness statements, photos, enough to paint a pretty picture of what really happened years ago. You're not the untouchable kingpin you thought you were. He set the envelope down hard enough that it rattled against the bar, frustration visible on his face. You think this is going to change anything, Harper? You think anyone will believe you? Maybe, I said, my heart racing with the certainty I finally felt after all this time. But at least you'll spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder, wondering when your past will catch up to you. He leaned closer, his voice lowering to a hiss. You have no idea what you're messing with. You think this is some kind of game? I held his gaze defiantly, a smile breaking across my face as courage replaced the fear I had once felt. Oh, I know exactly what I'm doing. And trust me, when it's all said and done, you will wish you had treated me differently. As I rose from the bar stool, savoring the feeling of empowerment, I added one last piece, my voice steady but low. You're not untouchable anymore. This is just the beginning, and I'm not done yet. For the first time, he seemed truly rattled, and that taste of victory filled me, a sweet acknowledgement of the strength I reclaimed. I walked away, my heart still pounding, but now fueled by a different kind of fire. The rain poured down in sheets, casting a silver haze over Riverbend. I stood on the corner of Main Street, my heart pounding like a drum against the din of the storm. The town seemed to hold its breath, the usually bustling shops now shuttered, their window displays turned into distorted reflections of the world outside, warped by the rain. I pulled my coat tighter around me, not just to shield against the cold, but to calm the storm brewing inside me. Today was the day. It hit me like a surge of electricity as I watched the flicker of soft lights through the rain-coated glass windows of the cafe. In there, tucked away in a booth, was the embodiment of betrayal, the person who had taken everything from me. A ghost I thought I had buried deep in my past. Anger surged through me, hot as lava, as I wiped the rain from my face, the taste of bitterness mixing with the cold air. I could barely breathe. As I took a step closer to the cafe, my boots splashing in the puddles, the familiar smell of brewed coffee wafted through the door as someone entered, momentarily illuminating the interior. Laughter bubbled up from within, sweet and inviting, wrapping around me even as it filled me with rage. I hesitated on the threshold, reminding myself why I had come. This was not just about me. It was about justice. The bell above the door tinkled as I entered, and the warmth enveloped me. My eyes quickly searched for that smirking face until it landed on a figure seated in the back booth. There they were, a knot of friends surrounding them, their voices animated, the joy palpable. It was so painful to watch, a reminder of their carefully crafted life while mine lay in ruins. I hesitated for just a moment longer, feeling my heart squeeze painfully. Then, I steeled myself. I had played this moment over in my head 1,000 times, every word rehearsed like a script ingrained in my mind. I strode toward the booth, each step firm, confident, as if I controlled the storm brewing around me. As I approached, the chatter began to quiet. Recognition sparked in their eyes, disbelief morphing into something darker. "What do you want?"